Hey guys, and welcome to Couch Pundit Sports. This interview is part of a new series in which we'll be interviewing people from the motorsport industry in India. They would be racers, coaches, people in general that make up a motorsport team. We're also interviewing people from the esport motorsport industry. The first interview we have for today is with Saurav Banyopadhyay. He is the CEO of IRESPORTS. And if you guys do like such content, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram to know more about this exciting series, and we're going to try to put up one video every month for the rest of the year. We hope you guys enjoy. So yeah.
How have you been, Saurav? Thank you so much for connecting.
Been great.
I got your number through Arya. Arya is a close friend.
Oh, okay. Arya has been with our racing academy for like now over 10 years.
Yeah.
I know him since he was like a kid. I used to look out for him and handle him. So yeah.
So just a little heads up, we are Couch Pundit Sports. Even when I told you about what we do Formula One streams, we do cricket streams, we do a lot of other sports.
Okay.
We like talking about motorsport in general. We talk to we interviewed racers from like the younger generation in Indian motorsport, like Kyle, Kumar being one of them, who raced with Sohail with Mumbai Falcons. We interviewed Sohail, we've interviewed Jamie, Akhil Rabindra, he's currently in GT4.
Correct.
And we're glad that we have you now on stream. So thank you very much for coming though.
Hey man, my name is Dhaval. I'm sort of the co-founder of this thing. I just want to correct Arsh there. We've not interviewed even one of these guys. We've just done live streams with them.
Yeah.
And
live streams as in you guys were watching the Formula One race together?
No. We were discussing the races, and post sort of review and stuff like that.
Okay.
Generally, I'll just give you a idea of what we're going to do today. It's very informal. Are you comfortable with Hindi, English, or both?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with everything. Yeah, we can
sab chalega,
jump around. Yeah, sab chalega.
Okay. So it's going to be like this only. It's a simple conversation. I'll take you through all the topics once that we are going to ask you about.
Okay.
Generally, upar se. And that's it. You just treat this as a conversation, not as an interview or anything.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
And if there's at any point, this is being recorded already. So if at any point you feel like you don't want to answer a question or something like that, you can let us know. Abhi itna matlab where we've dealt with like people who have had to deal with BCCI and stuff. So I hope it's not going to be that.
Is it like lot more cricket than racing?
Interviews, yes. Like we've got Kiran More, we've got Snehal Pradhan, we've got like these Delhi Capital strategists and all. Things like that. So we've done a lot more cricket interviews. We also one of the main things that we wanted to do was focus on domestic Indian sports. So we also interviewed a Ranji player, and that series did not take off because all the players are like, यार हम लोग इंटरव्यू देते हैं फिर कुछ बोल देते हैं और फिर हमारा मतलब बहुत खराब हो जाता है. So every player we've contacted has been like, yeah, we can give you an interview, but this, that, and the other, BCCI. So it's been really tough getting cricketers, ex-cricketers, yes. Every now and then they agree or things like that. So we're hoping like motorsport mein itna nahi hoga.
Motorsport mein chill hai yaar. Nobody cares, what you say or what's going on.
मतलब वो लोग तो मतलब टीवी पे गालियां देते हैं तो.
Yeah, so it's all right. No, I mean, it's more chill with motorsport, especially in India.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk to you about karting. We're going to talk to you about car racing beyond Formula One, because the focus with everybody in this country is Formula One right now, at least as far as viewership is concerned.
Forms of motorsport.
Yeah. Correct. We're going to talk about pro racing in India, because that is also something that you do and you would know about. We're going to talk to you about, Arsh is very excited to talk to you about esports, because why not, right? Esports is also pretty cool, and you're doing something revolutionary over there. So
Yeah.
Because I actually DM'd IR Esports about 2 years ago, and they got back to me immediately. I'm on the Discord and everything, and because I have a wheel, like I have a T150 with the pro pedals, everything, and I do heavy online racing without assists and all of that. So I was wondering, like I'd asked them about how to get into it because I really love esports. Unfortunately, it's only PC. मेरे पास PS4 है.
Okay. हाँ, PSP we are not that active.
हाँ. So we'll interview. We'll ask you questions about different platforms, about how you're looking to expand and all of that about esports.
Cool.
and
Solid.
just that's about it.
Cool. Works.
So I'll do like a little clap, and after that we'll go into like the zone.
Dhaval, एक second introduction.
What introduction?
Mr. Saurav ka.
That the packaging and all we'll record later. We won't do it right now.
Okay.
The packaging will be done later. So when after I do the clap, I'll say, please state your name and occupation. That's like you give like one liner about yourself. The other introduction that we will do for you, we will do in packaging that we will record later. That's not going to happen right now.
Chale.
Okay, everyone ready?
Yeah. Good to go. Hi, I'm Saurav. I'm a race driver and entrepreneur. Currently racing in the Volkswagen Championship in India and involved in a bunch of motorsport businesses in the country, including IRESPORTS, which is heavily into esports. And we're doing some really cool stuff at IRESPORTS.
Hi, man. Hi, Saurav. Hi, Arsh. You jumped the gun a little bit. It was a jump start because I was going to tell you, please state your name and occupation. So anyway, it's nice to have you here, man. This is Couch Pundits, where this is part of the motorsport series, what we've been trying to do with cricket. We're now trying to do with motorsport, where we're talking to people, interviewing them, especially people who are within the country and doing stuff within the country around motorsport. So it's great to have you with us, Saurav. And we're going to talk to you about a bunch of things today, as I already told you before we started recording. So let's just take it away from the beginning and tell us about all the bunch of things you're doing, starting with IRESports, your personal racing, and Rayo racing. So just,
So currently, the Volkswagen Championship I was doing, the 2021 Championship concluded in Feb, and I missed out on the championship by a few points. And that has been the case for the last 3 years. I've been so close to winning the championship 3 years in a row. So it was a little frustrating, but I drove really well. So I was happy with how the season went. It was extremely competitive. So I had a lot of fun. So I enjoyed myself. So surprisingly, I was not disappointed. And I was like, all right, learned a lot, had a lot of fun. Let's move on. So now looking forward to this season, have some plans to do some international racing, looking into it. Let's see how things shape up. So that's what's going on the racing front. Now, what we do at IRESports. Okay, I'll talk about IRESports a little bit, then I'll talk about the other things we do. So IRESports is an esports company mainly focused on motorsport related esports, right? Since I've been sim racing since I think 2009, right? So I had a wheel and I kept upgrading wheels all through the years. Currently, I have a really good setup, and it's always helped me prepare for my races. But obviously, after a time, I realized that, esports is taking off and motorsport related esports was doing really well abroad. So I spoke to Raymond, who's my coach, and I also do most of the things in motorsport with him. So we had a chat and we were like, let's experiment, right? So we started something like, I think around 2.5 years back. It was a fun little experiment. We did a few live events in Mumbai where we took simulators, took them to college events, gaming events, and it was crazy, man. Like people were fighting over themselves to drive the simulator. And I think this one incident which really, woke me up is we were at one of the top gaming events in Mumbai, right? And it was a last minute thing, so we could take only one simulator there. So you had this whole auditorium where there were different games being played, different PC setups, and our simulator, we could find space somewhere in the middle, right? And I was at a different motorsport event that day, so I went a little late. When I went there, I could see like this line going around the whole auditorium, right? And I'm like, wait, what are these people waiting for? And when I went through the crowd, I'm like, okay, wait, they're all standing in line to drive a simulator, right? So it was crazy how exciting people find this, right? And we were like, okay, you know what? Maybe we're on to something. And then the organizers of that gaming convention, they go to 17 cities. So after that, they were like, do you want to come with us to 17 cities and, like create something out of this? So we were like, yeah, that's exciting. Let's do that. But the pandemic happened, and we went online and it took off. Initially, I still remember at that time we were running all the streams from our homes, right? Me and this other guy. So I finished the stream and I'm completely exhausted because I was running the setup from my house and I was doing it all alone, right? Whereas the other guy was assisting. So I finished it and the other guy calls me and he's like, yo, we got 3,000 views on this. I'm like, wait, what? People want to watch this? Right? And then from there, we kept progressing and we did a bunch of projects, one for Volkswagen, one for Formula Bharat, and it's just been growing and it's been like crazy exciting what all we've accomplished as IRESPORTS.
Yeah.
Then coming to real world motorsport is the other thing that we do. So Rayo, who's my coach, he has a company, Rayo Racing, where we train kids and we have a racing team. So the kids race in India and abroad. In fact, Jehan was one of Rayo's first students, and he trained him in the initial years.
Right.
And then we run karting facilities and we organize karting races. So this is like a basket of everything that
Is the Vadala facility also yours?
Yes, that is, it's Ajmera Indy Karting. So we are running it with the Ajmeras in partnership. So yeah.
Nice.
What is IR esports like? Like you said, you've gotten so far. You said you had 3,000 people wait up in that event. Now you went to 17 cities. You had so many accomplishments about IR esports in the last couple of years. What is IR esports currently? Where are we at currently in IR esports, and what do you see IR esports take in the next 5 years or in the next 3 years?
Okay, so just to clarify that 17 event cities thing didn't happen because the pandemic started. So while we were finalizing everything, the pandemic started and we were like, oh shit, it was a great opportunity. But to be very honest, when the pandemic started, I was very disappointed for the first 7 days. I was like, what an opportunity that could have been. And I'm like, that's gone, right? So then we started tinkering around with online stuff and it clicked. So what we have done so far is we have our own championship called as the Indian E-Racing Championship, right? So we have brands associate themselves with our championship. And what we always try to do is the prizes are geared towards putting people who love the sport, who are doing it from their homes, onto the real world racetrack. So that's what we've been doing with Indian E-Racing Championship. Volkswagen wanted to do a championship themselves called as the Volkswagen Virtual Racing Championship. So there, the winner was picked and he was put onto the racetrack. He did one full season of racing in the Volkswagen National Series. So that's what we've been doing on the online space. Then Formula Bharat, we were talking to them. So Formula Bharat is India's biggest Formula student competition. And I think the scale at which they do something in India is fabulous, right? So we've had an equation with them from before. So, we were discussing some ideas during the pandemic and we were like, how can we replicate something which is not fully motorsport? There has to be an engineering aspect to it. So we came up with some ideas and we did Revit for Formula Bharat, where it was a motorsport / engineering type event. So that was one of a kind. Nobody in the world has thought of a concept like that. And, we are discussing kind of making it even more engineering focused for season 2. And with the plans that we are thinking, if we pull it off, it'll be massive. Like, it'll be crazy, right? So that's on the Formula Bharat side. Then sorry, that can be edited, right?
Yeah. Aram se, don't worry.
All right. Yeah. Sorry.
But we won't.
No, your phone was ringing. Yeah, the phone was ringing. So sorry about that. Okay. Yeah.
That look is
So,
You sir,
priceless.
huh.
That
you were
look that you
talking
gave to
about
that person on the side is priceless. So we're not going to edit that out.
Okay. Yeah. Good. So,
so you spoke about
huh.
Formula Bharat, right? And so Formula Bharat is now so I'll just tell you, I have got a friend that drove in Formula Bharat as well. So he went to MIT. I mean MIT matlab apna Manipal Institute of Technology. Uh,
Hey,
just to clarify.
don't say it like that's like any inferior.
No. It's superior. In fact, what are you saying
Reality may be
inferior?
different, but like we're nationalists and all.
Yeah,
We
you
have
should
to.
be proud.
The
Yeah.
flavor of the country is that everything made in India is better.
Like what drove? I mean, yes, it's a great engineering competition. I follow them on Instagram. I've seen the progress that different colleges come from around the country to talk about, like, showcase the car that they've made over time. um how did you see that as a either a benchmark or a trampoline to help IRESports connect with um Formula Bharat? Like, what made you, apart from the engineering part, what drove esports in comparison, like in connection with Formula Bharat? Because Formula Bharat is real world and esports is sim racing. So, like, how did you think that was a great connect for the two?
So, so couple of things. One was it was the pandemic was a challenge, right? So physical events were a challenge, and uh, the thing with esports is it allows you, much bigger scale, right? Now the thought process, even for Formula Bharat, was that like what, not all teams can put together the budget, and the experience and the effort required to build a car, right? It takes years, and I've spoken to a lot of Formula student teams where they planned and it didn't happen. And after 2-3 years, they finally could make it to Formula Bharat. They raised the funds and they put together a team. But in the virtual space, if we did something smaller, a little more easy, at least they can explore this. They can see what this community is all about. Right. So this was a thought process that the scale can be much bigger. And the with the live stream of the races possible, what it also did is the reach can also increase, right? With the sponsors getting similar returns, the sponsors of the Formula student teams getting similar returns, because the branding that they give them on the real world car at Formula Bharat, right? The same branding was possible in the game, right? So the students, the teams could give same type of returns to their sponsors. The scale was bigger, the entry barrier was lower, and also the reach was great. There were live streams and they were exciting. So that was the thought process. Then, obviously, now that the pandemic is over, we definitely want to get back to again physical events with simulators, because that's where we see that you can have other types of land competitions which are exciting. But I'm telling you, when we go and put 6 simulators somewhere and do a competition, people are going to lose it, right? And that's what we definitely want to get back into. And also, so we've been talking to a lot of brands on after we did the Volkswagen thing. We spoke to a lot of brands, and they definitely want to explore the esports space. What they love is, for the Volkswagen Championship, we built the race car that I race in. We built it inside the game, and
Nice.
all 4,500 participants drove that car. Right now, it's a great brand activation for a car company, but with PC, the scale is kind of restricted, especially in a country like India. So a lot of them have shown interest in something on the mobile front, but there are challenges so on the PC front, we work with 3 games, right? We have partnerships with them. So there's a lot of flexibility. If you see what we did for Volkswagen and Formula Bharat, we branded the car, branded the track, everything. It looked like our own game because we have that partnership with those games. To do something like that on mobile is extremely complicated. They have to send an update to every device which has downloaded the game, right? So that is a big task, big expense for mobile games. So they're not generally keen to do these kind of esports partnerships, So we've been thinking a lot, we've been researching a lot, and some thoughts are coming along as to what we need to do to actually get into the mobile space, right? So maybe 6 months or 1 year down the line, we will be doing esports on the mobile front, but in a different way, which as the plan kind of comes together, we will talk about it more openly.
So here's where I have a question, and this may sound very basic to you because I don't have any understanding of esports except like watching some live streams here and there. So, firstly, what is the kind of setup required if you want to be like a serious esports athlete? Like Arsh was just saying that he's got some number he said about some wheel and pedals and
Thrustmaster
everything.
T150.
You can't say those numbers. They don't sponsor us, Arsh. Just like shush.
I'm looking to upgrade though. I'm looking to upgrade.
And he's going to get the better one, which is, Thrustmaster is not good. Bekar hai wo. So what are the kinds of setups? And firstly, just tell me what is this sim racing? And obviously it is different from like Formula One, like the game, right? Sim racing is not that.
Correct. So there are different types of games. Some are just for fun, right? So people play
Formula One is a game just for fun, right?
Now it has a difficult mode without all the help, but generally there are a bunch of games which are made in a way that it's kind of easy so that more people enjoy it, right? Not everybody wants to improve their skill by playing a game. Some of them just want to enjoy. So some games are for that, and some games are a little more hardcore where you really need to put in a lot of effort to drive well, and it's a challenge to be fast, right? So back in the day, it was 90% of the people used to enjoy arcade type racing games, and 10% people enjoyed simulation gaming. Now it's changing massively, and people want the real deal, and with wheels and stuff available, people are like, nahi, mere ko ekdam real wala gaadi chalana, right?
Like when I am playing the Formula One game, it feels like I am playing some sort of sim racer, and I play it with controllers.
So if you remove all the assists,
all the assists I can't remove. All the assists I can't remove. Like it becomes like incredibly difficult without the wheel. So there comes my next question. Like, what is a wheel like a necessary thing for if you want to be like serious about sim racing and stuff?
So it used to be, right? And our thought process about this was like, that is not a way to, encourage more people to enter it. If everybody needs a good PC and like a nice wheel, and
तुम लोग तो मोबाइल पे डाल रहे हो, तुम लोग तो मोबाइल पे गेम डाल रहे हो.
Oh, I'll come to that. What we are trying, maybe after 6 months, we'll reveal what we are planning to do. But we definitely need to do something in the mobile space. But even for PC, if you're restricting it to anybody who has that space and that money to buy a wheel, you're reducing numbers massively. So what we were trying actually from the second month that we got into the online organizing stuff, we were like, nahi yaar, keyboard walo ko lana hai on board. But the thing is, if I'm playing on a keyboard and you have a wheel, you're going to beat me for sure, right? And none of the games actually help you set up separate servers. Keyboard वालों के लिए ये server है, wheel वालों के लिए ये server है. ऐसा होता नहीं है. But so trust me, like we have some really smart people at IRESPORTS. Sometimes they I'm absolutely grateful for the team that we have, right? Because when we sat down and this was pandemic was on at its peak, and we were sitting and we were like, there has to be a way, right? And we did a lot of research. No game, no hack, nothing can segregate servers. But when we looked at the server data, and we were like, server still reads that this guy is on a wheel, this guy is on a keyboard, this guy is on a controller.
Yeah.
So there must be a way. So one of our top esports guys started looking for a way to, a way or a person who can help us figure this out. And after a lot of searching, we found a guy. A Russian guy actually, and he was already tinkering with the game, modding the game, and he helped us create servers where if it's a keyboard server and you're trying to join with a wheel or a controller, it will kick you out. And if it's a wheel server, you're trying to join with a controller, it will kick you out. Right. So then it is level playing field. Ki sab keyboard wale saath mein, wheel wale alag hai. And this is what Volkswagen really was very particular about. They are like, we want to make it fair and even for somebody who's playing on keyboard. And we had decent numbers of people who were just playing on keyboard. And to make it fair, we picked evenly from, wheel, keyboard, controller. and PlayStation, right? So we gave everybody an opportunity to make it to the finals. So, and we are trying to still push, in that direction and encourage. So we do some promos and ads just showing keyboards, so that people understand कि, oh, I can play a racing game just with a keyboard, So that's what
वो actually देखा है मैंने, because there was I mean I was actually following I mean I got to know about Rayo racing through Arya, and he told me a lot about the karting and all of that. And then when I found out that IR Esports had created its own form of esports, and they had also created that Independence Day where you guys had created an amazing graphic. It's beautiful. You know what I'm talking about, right? The three cars going, and it's a beautiful graphic. Dhawal, if you haven't seen that, you should check it out. It's beautiful. And if मैंने picture देखा था कि all the keyboard piece, like all the PC people are sitting, and पीछे से there's a snap of everyone playing on the keyboard, and that's when I realized that okay, this is a level playing field for the keyboard people, and then there's another level playing field for the PlayStation, which actually brings me to my next question. Like I'm sure you know about Formula One esports, how they filter out the PC, the Xbox, as well as the PS4, and then they get them into the final draft, and then the Formula One teams, the actual 10 Formula One teams, will choose their 2-3 fastest drivers from that draft, and they get picked to drive for that season. They get a contract. So like how is IR Esports also, doing some, does the IR Esports have any plans to venture out into Xbox and PlayStation, or are you guys still just sticking to
So what we
PC?
did, right in the beginning, we used to put out a form on our Instagram handles for people who want to do sim racing, and we used to keep a option over there. What do they have, right? And we looked at the numbers and we explored all the existing communities. So the number of people, a lot of people have PlayStations, and even a lot of people who have PlayStations have wheels, but they don't want to compete online. They want to enjoy, right? So if you see people who are actually competing on a PlayStation with wheels, the number is very small. Same with Xbox, the number is very small. So, but Xbox right now in India, I'm just talking about India, is smaller than PlayStation. So for the Volkswagen Championship, we still did a little bit of PlayStation. From time to time, we organize some events on PlayStation, but the numbers are very small. The community is a little small. So we've not focused over there. And also the customizability on PlayStation is kind of missing. Whereas right now, what we are doing with the PC games is ridiculous. We were even testing Rain, and and it's working really well. So not only initially there was a way to make Rain appear only visually, but it won't affect the track surface. But now we tested recently, and it will also affect the track surface. And it's crazy, and these are kind of experiments we do, and with PC you can do that. There was this one fun race we were doing with rickshaws.
I saw that, and also I think someone had posted that might be an April Fool's joke, that the next edition.
And then the next day we said, okay, you know what? It is not a joke. We're actually doing a race.
Because I remember seeing that screenshot of the chat actually that was posted on Instagram. That hey guys, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I've been following IR Esports since you guys were inceptionized.
So Rayo saw the video. He screenshot.
And he's like, what is this, guys?
What is going on? Right? And I was like, Rayo, look at the date. So yeah.
But moving on, like you said,
wanted to do that race for a while. We just thought April, like 1st April would be the great. It would be a great way to
speak to your marketing guys, man. You guys have some great marketing people. It looks.
Oh yeah, they're whack and very innovative.
But moving on, you said you can customize all of that. But this is one of
race. It was a fun event. No sponsors, no brands involved. So what we did is we branded the whole track with IR Esports, and we went crazy with our experiments. So there was this helicopter shot of the Budh circuit that we were using for the rickshaw race, and you could see like big IR Esports on the track as well. So with these games, we've been really playing around, experimenting, which is not really there on let's say PlayStation and things like that. So, and what brands want is, see, if you look at other esports streams, you will see कि ठीक है brand का logo overlay पे है. Okay, if you look into our streams, you're like, oh god, like I can see the brand on the car and on the track, right? That is the wow factor. And that's why we are focused on PC, because it blows people's mind, including brands.
It does, because like you said, you can see the brand's logo on the car. Because I was watching one of the streams which Aditya Patnaik did actually, and in the endurance the Spa Endurance Championship, or I'm not sure, I might be wrong if it was not Spa or something, but the Endurance Championship where he drove the Volkswagen, and he's got a Thrustmaster base as well. He's got a Thrustmaster base as well. So I think that's beautiful that you can. And he was, I think the commentator was vouching him for second. So it was just very nice to see that he had the Indian flag, the IRESPORTS banner, the Volkswagen banner, and all of that. So
that internationally, we make sure that the Indian flag and the Indian colors are pasted all over the car, and jaake full show off karte hai, tricolor wherever we can. So
100%.
And Aditya is extremely good on the sim and in the real world. I think he's so he has a very unique story. He started as a sim racer because he loved the sport, right? And he started winning stuff. Then his parents were like, okay, you know what? You seem to have talent and potential. We'll give you a shot, right? And he came to the real world, and start was slow, but then he's just taken off, and he's doing a fabulous job in the real world. And this year, I'm really excited to see what he's going to do on the in the national championship, because he's shaping up really well.
That's a great segue actually, because we now want to talk to you about real world racing a little bit. And to start with, I think what everyone starts with is karting. So
yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you started with karting? What brought you to the sport? Because I mean, I don't want to make presumptions about your age, but sim racing may not have been a thing when you started out karting, right?
Yeah. So my story is a little whack. I like this sport, so I was like, yeah, kuch to karna hai, but kahan pe kare? Right? This is 2006, and I went to that track in Powai, and I'm like, okay, what do I do if I want to do this thing? And then I went to a track in Chembur. Then there was a mechanic over there who kind of gave me some tips and stuff. And then I met a bunch of guys who were trained, who used to drive at that Chembur track regularly. So then I started driving with them and doing some local tournaments. I didn't do so well, but I started learning from these guys and, learning the lingo and, seeing what goes around. And then we were like, ye national championship kya hota hai? So we were like, chalo jaake dekhte. Right. So we showed up for a national championship round in Goa, karting, and did okay. It was not bad at all. And that's where I met Rayo. Right. And while talking to him, he's like, you need to be properly trained. This does not make sense. You guys are doing decent, but this does not make sense. So then I took my first proper training from Rayo after having been in the sport for 2 years, just loitering around. And then the good thing was I did not know how expensive this sport is. My research was poor. Had I known how expensive this is, I would have maybe not entered. But once I got in, I was like, okay, you know what? I enjoy this. And finances were going to be a challenge. And so I spoke to Rayo, and I'm like, okay, look, this is what it is. And he's like, hey, not a problem. We'll figure. Right. And I always, so from day one, I think I was working with the team for small things, whatever I could take care of. And as I kind of grew up, I was in college that time. So whatever responsibility I could take, whatever I could help out with, I started doing that to kind of manage my costs, and I started doing decently well. And this is 4-stroke karting. Then from 4-stroke karting, moved on to 2-stroke karting, was racing for dirt cheap. So we were like grid fillers. Back in the day, whenever the grids were small, they would give out the carts that were just lying around to fill up the grid. Right. And it was dirt cheap. So it was a great opportunity to just get some track time. So started doing that. Parents were like, okay, you know what? Kid seems passionate. Let's kind of help him. So they tried to support, do their best. Rayo was trying to help by, letting me work for the team and kind of reducing my costs. So somehow I was racing. Right. But the challenge is when you're driving that way, you're always stressed. You're always worrying about finances and funds, or if I crash, what will happen? And the funny thing is, when you're always worried about crashing, you crash more and you have bigger damage bills, and it's a mess. So even though there were like flashes of good performance, more or less it was a mess. Then Volkswagen came to India, and they were doing a selection. So Rayo said, go for it. Even though all the top drivers in the country were aiming for it, Rayo was like, there's a slim chance you might get through. And they were selecting 20 guys. I was 21st. But there was this one guy who pulled out, and I got into the first season of Volkswagen. Right. And it was like a horrible season. I was in the bottom 5 all the time. And then the next season, I managed to get a sponsor, and I managed to get some podiums. But it was going in a direction where I knew costs were going up, and it was not sustainable. The plan was not sustainable, and I was in my early 20s. I couldn't keep taking money from home, and sponsorship also was a lot of effort, right? I think the way I got sponsorship was just like literally irritating brands and a little bit of luck, right? So I was like, okay, this is not sustainable, and then eventually I ran out of money. Right. So I took 5 years gap. The plan was like maybe 1.5 year or 2 years. I thought I'll do something of my own, get the funds, and I'll get back into racing. And obviously it stretched out way longer than what I thought. But I tried a bunch of things, tried doing something of my own, tried doing something with some other people. And I was always in touch with Rayo. Right. And then we got some interesting projects where Rayo said, you know what, come work. My biggest issue at that time was, if I am not racing, I'm not going to coach, because I was like, if I'm not doing what I love, I'm not going to teach somebody else to do what I love and then watch him do what I love. Right. I was like, that'll be a really bad experience. So I kept telling Rio, I'm not coaching. So he's like, okay, you know what? No problem. There are other stuff to do. So we were organizing races, doing stuff for car brands, like, Jaguar, Audi, Porsche. So Rio was like, come along, do those things. And then when I had enough funds to go back into racing, and I started racing again, I was like, okay, Rio, you know what? Now, if you want me to coach, I'll coach, right? And fortunately, the last 5 years after I came back into racing, have been like fabulous. I've been consistently winning. I've been close to winning the championship every year, and it's been great. So started 4-stroke karting, then 2-stroke karting, and then cars. And now I'm like training a big bunch of kids in karts who are aiming to get into 2-stroke and then cars, and they're doing a fabulous job. They're fast.
So now that you said that you're going to be like you're training, kids getting into karting, what would be probably 3 things that you would tell new drivers, especially? I know that the normal age for karting is, if you want to take it up professionally, is around 8 to 10 years old. So what would you tell, kids starting out, three things to look at, or 3 pitfalls to avoid when you start your racing career from karts itself?
So see, I have like a big range of students. So I have like 2 or 3, 5, 6-year-olds who are training.
Whoa.
Then there are a bunch of 9, 10, 11-year-olds. And then there are like 16, 17, 18-year-olds. For everybody, the plan is different. Okay. But the first thing I tell everybody is that, Formula One is just a part of motorsport. If you want to do this, if you want to race, there are multiple options. There are many prestigious championships that you can aim towards. If you want to get into Formula One, there are a lot of factors. Age, the right amount of funding, the right timing, a bunch of politics,
a little bit of luck. A little bit of luck.
So everything has to come together. And the thing is, because there are just 20 of them doing it in the world, right? The competition is extreme, and with that extreme competition, the costs keep going up, right? So, for example, if you're aiming to get into Formula racing, the kind of money that you're going to spend between the age, like when you turn 10 to 14, in those 4 years, the kind of money you're going to spend, you can have a 10 to 12-year career in touring car racing with that much money, right? So, the first thing I tell everybody that you need to plan smartly. You need to understand the kind of path you need to take. So you need to decide based on your age, your budget, the available options. So that is one thing, right? Second is, it's like with any sport, what you need to keep in mind is, you know, it's very important to be realistic, right? And we are in this culture of, hey, you know, like follow what you love and forget everything and burn your bridges. You know, it sounds very exciting, right? And there are a lot of people online who are talking about all these unrealistic
Oh yeah,
goal
Instagram is
setting
full of them.
stuff,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
Yeah, but they are saying all that because their business model is dependent on people listening to them, and people will listen
Correct.
to them if they talk unrealistic flowery stuff. If somebody is going to give real talk, they're going to go away, right? So I
Correct.
give them real talk on day one, that okay, look, you need to have a strategic approach to life. You know, you need to have uh, you focus on the sport, you do it well, okay, you give it your everything, but at the same time, whatever else you're doing, keep it going. You know, don't leave everything to do this. If you reach a point where we know that okay, everything is going in your direction and things are great, fine, you can prioritize racing a little bit more than other things that you do in life, but let me or let Rayo take that decision for you. You just follow our lead, you know, and think about a more sustainable approach to racing, right? Let's say even if you don't, uh, you know, make it so big that you have sponsors or things like that. If you have a successful career in something else that you do, you can keep following your passion, right? If you have the budget,
Pay for
you
yourself,
can keep
basically.
following your passion, right? But if you go all in and it doesn't work out for you, you're looking at a frustrating life, you know. So that is the second thing. It's having a realistic approach about the effort it's going to take and the options that are available. And other than that, the fact that it's going to take a lot of work, you know, people come in to our basic training program, and on day two they have blisters on their hand. So I'm like, you know, that's a reality check. So in our basics training, I think they drive 100 laps in 2 days. And I tell them that, look, the kids who are training seriously under us, they're doing 300 laps a day when they're training, right? So if doing 50 laps a day, you have blisters on your hand, you need to first go eat well, work out well, you know, take that effort and come back. If you cannot learn a track in 2 days of training and draw it out for me, you're not paying enough attention. You know, you need to work on your attention span, your focus, your concentration. So it's a lot of work. So many times when I'm talking to parents of kids, whether they're young or they're in their teens, I always tell them that, okay, look, you know what, they've started, they're showing a lot of interest, but let's test them out, right? Let the work come in, let them realize it's hard work, that it's painful. And then if they still want to put that effort, then you invest in them. Then you know, invest in their sport and, you know, spend those big amounts that motorsport requires. Otherwise, it's not going to make sense. So I always, you know, tell parents to kind of test out their kids and see how real their passion really is. You know, because everybody loves cars. Formula One looks exciting. The life looks glamorous. Everybody wants it, but the effort is insane. I have 12, 13-year-olds who can do 200 push-ups a day, and it's no joke, right? Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think these are the three things I would say.
You were saying that, you know, what the amount of money you can spend just 4 years building to Formula One, you can have like a 12-year career in, you know, touring car racing. So now comes the question that what is the infrastructure in India? I want to focus on Formula One a little bit over here right now and ask you this question. Why are there so many European drivers making it to Formula One and not as many drivers from outside? Like, I'm not just focusing on India, but I want you to answer with India in mind. Okay, is it just the politics of it, or is there something beyond that in terms of infrastructure also?
See, I'll give you an example. So 2011, I went for my first international karting race to Malaysia. 34 drivers on the grid, I was 34th, right? Few years later, some of the other kids went abroad from Rayo racing. They were much higher up. Okay. Then 2018, 19, just before the pandemic, a couple of my students went abroad. They performed even better right from their first race. So it is about the quality of drivers you're facing. right? If the level of competition in India is over here, when you go abroad, you're going to get smashed, right? So that is the challenge. Now, obviously, as the level improves in India, we are doing better abroad. Now you will see there are Indians, not like Indians who have grown up abroad and they're racing abroad. No, Indians who are racing here, who've learned here, they're going abroad and they're doing well because the competition here is strong. Also, our understanding of things is improving, our understanding of processes is improving, and with our experience, we're able to plan better.
Right.
Also, yes, you need to do a lot of racing abroad. So the kids who are winning are spending significant amount of time racing abroad, no doubt about that. But it's about the level. So in Europe, a kid is racing with, so every driver on the grid is capable of being a champion in, let's say, an Asian grid, for example. Right? So that's going to be the level, right? So the Asian champion, when he goes there, he's going to find it a little difficult. So that is the main reason. It's the level of skill and talent, right? So I would say that's the main reason. So if you are quick, I don't see why opportunities won't come our way. There'll always be politics and this and that. That's there in every sport. That's there in everything that you do. But if you're quick, you show potential. And there are some Indians who are doing really well abroad, not just in Formula racing, even in GT racing. So
I think
I
think one of the, you said, right, when you go abroad and you see the level that has increased, but one thing that at least an Indian driver that did break the stereotype was Jayan being the first ever Indian driver to win a Grand Prix sanctioned by the FIA, which was in New Zealand back in 2011, 2012. So, and now you can see that, when he had that level of competition in that year, he was able to improve his skill set, and then now currently doing well for Formula 2 and Prema, and obviously 2 seasons for Carlin. Where do you, like, a question based on that, what about like the Madras MRF series? Because the Madras MRF series that happens in Chennai in the off season has in fact seen quite a few skilled drivers come in and improve their skill set. Like, I know it's a bit controversial when I say this, but Nikita Mazepin being the latest, and Mick Schumacher, he also raced in Chennai, and a couple of others actually came down to Chennai to race. So, like, does that also play a part in improving the infrastructure in India, or does that just improve skill set?
The cars that were there in MRF 2000, right? They are very close to the F3 level. Okay.
Correct.
So, and it's in the off season for those drivers, they want a competitive series to be in, right? In the off season, because it's winter over there, they don't do much racing. So they come down over here to a competitive series, and which goes to a bunch of F1 tracks as well. Back in the day, it used to go to Middle East and India. So it made a lot of sense for them to make use of that time and gain some experience. So for an Indian driver to be on that grid and race with those guys would be of great help to first thing see where he or she stands, right? And then kind of learn from them and improve. Like, I'll tell you an experience which kind of blew my mind. So VW has this driver exchange program, right? Where once a year they'll bring a champion from the neighboring countries, either China or South Africa, where VW has a program. Now, traditionally, always we've had those drivers coming to India and absolutely dominating, right? So they show up over here, they do 1 day of practice, extra practice, on a track they've never driven on a car which is different to the car that they are driving in their country, and boom, they're quickest. So that's the level of those drivers. And it's a little embarrassing to admit that for many years, they were beating us by 1 second, 1.5 second on our home track. Till, actually when I came back.
Sorry, Saurav, just to interrupt you. For people watching, 1.5 seconds is miles. If you guys don't know about motorsport, it's a massive, massive gap. It sounds 1.5 seconds, but people go down to the 100th of a second, 1000th of a second. So people who are watching and didn't know that, just a side note. Continue.
It's crazy. So I think 2017, when I came back to racing, round 2, there was a guy from South Africa who came in, and he went 1.5 seconds quicker than everybody. And I was third fastest that weekend. So I was maybe 0.2 off the Indian fastest guy. So I was 1.7 seconds off the pace. I was like, you know what, like that's crazy. This has to change. And fortunately, I had a little time on my hand.
उसके
Right?
गाड़ी को तूने चेक किया, नाइट्रस ऑक्साइड है ऐसा कुछ डाल रहा था वो?
अरे रेस में सामने ही था, मैंने देखा वो खुद पे चला रहा था, कुछ एक्स्ट्रा नहीं.
इंस्पेक्टर सेब की तरह इंस्पेक्टर सौरभ भी आ गया अब checking the car.
The way I did my research after that was of that level. So, you know, in VW, the great thing that I love about that championship, they give you the data of the fastest guy. So whenever I'm fastest, my data is given to the whole grid so that they see that, they learn from it and they improve. Right? So
like all sorts of data. It could even just be your telemetry. It doesn't have to
full
just
telemetry, throttle sensor, brake sensor, steering input, everything. So we got his data. Obviously, I went home and I spent like there was 1 month till the next race, and I obsessed over his data, right? And I tried to understand everything, and I even went like the technicians who were working around his car. I was like, okay, wait, you know, like was he doing anything different, or were his tire pressures different? What was the thing? You know, like I was trying to understand, and I compared my steering input with his steering input on data, and I obsessed over it for a month. End result, I went back and I was next race was again at Chennai. I was maybe 1.2 seconds off his pace. You know, so I had gained 5 tenths. I was like, okay,
5
wow.
tenths, yeah.
So I was like, theek hai yaar, kuch to kiya. But then I kind of understood that okay, the direction that I'm going in is kind of maybe is right, you know. Then I started understanding how they were using the tires, how they were handling the understeer of a front wheel drive car, right? And I was obsessed. Like I blocked out the whole world for another month. Fortunately, I had that time, and I went deep into it. And next time when I went, I matched that lap time. And that weekend we had the Chinese champion come in, right? And we were battling for pole. He was only 0.05 slower than me in quali, and we both matched the time of that South African guy. So once that happened, you know, I understood that okay, you know, they were driving slightly differently, right? Seeing that, then the whole level of, you know, then the other drivers got my data, right? They tried to copy some parts of it, and then slowly, you know, somebody found an even better way, you know, and then he matched me or went a tenth quicker, and then overall after that, last few years we have gone quicker. So so you know, that's the process, right? I mean, that's what they are exposed to now. In their championship, there are 20 cars like this, right? They're in a pack. So everybody is that good. Now imagine somebody with that kind of exposure, they're going to be extremely good. Over here, let's say top 5 fight, and top 5 used to be maybe 1.5 seconds slower. Now maybe we are somewhere closer. This year, the top 5 in the championship were really quick, and it was extremely competitive, you know? So that's how the level kind of improves. And then the drivers, then when you go abroad, you can do well. If you're already 1.5 seconds off in your home track, you're going to get destroyed when
Thrashed.
you go, you know? So that's, I mean, that's the reality of where, you know, how things are.
So when you talk about this, I've been speaking to a few drivers who've been driving in India, who've been driving competitively in India. And I've heard some complaints. Now you're talking about the racing aspect of it, how you guys are trying to improve and stuff like that. I want to ask you about the bad parts of it. When it comes to rule following, when it comes to the other parts where there is racing going on, but there is a lot of other stuff that goes on as well, right? Like I've heard complaints like, log thokte hai, nobody cares. People don't follow racing line, nobody cares. Penalties are handed out arbitrarily. So obviously that is also a factor, you know. So what do you agree with it firstly, and what is it?
I can tell you like a bunch of things, you know. So first is I've done karate for 10 years before I got into racing. Okay.
I like where this is going.
No. I'm not talking about fighting with my competitors. No. What I'm talking about is there was insane amount of politics over there. You know,
in karate or in racing?
In karate, right? So when I came to racing, I was like, okay, this is better. So what I'm trying to say is there's politics everywhere. You know, I know some athletes in badminton, right? They're doing really well, and they complain about politics in their part of the thing. It's a part of life, And again, when it comes to being realistic, you need to learn how to live with it, deal with it, and keep moving ahead and keep pushing forward. If you're going to cry about it and feel bad about it, then might as well not do anything in life. And I'm being very honest about it.
No, that's completely fair. My question is slightly different.
So there will be aspects where sometimes things will go your way, sometimes they'll not go your way. That is one.
Yeah.
Okay. So politics can be there. Okay. But also sometimes, see, as a race organizer, I can tell you why sometimes people think there is politics, right? When a guy crashes into the other guy or girl, okay, both have a different opinion, and they're going to approach it that way. We have cameras, so we look through camera angles. Sometimes we ask the officials. Sometimes no decision is always going to go in your favor. Okay. Sometimes it's on the edge, so we say, okay, racing incident, move on. Right. So then sometimes people think, oh, there's a bias. Sometimes they're mature enough to understand that there is no bias.
Right.
Then also there are championships where it's filled with amateurs. Okay. So sab log crisscross chala rahe. There are pile-ups. One guy hits this guy, that guy hits the other guy. And as an official, it's also very difficult to judge okay, now who do I penalize? Right. Or that was actually properly just bad luck. But obviously, if one guy has hit this guy and this guy hits the other guy, you cannot just like randomly give out penalties, and punish people for it. So you have to, if you're doing an amateur championship, you have to accept the possibilities and the risks over there, and you have to live with it. Yeah, someday 5 guys in front of you will crash out and you'll be on the podium. The other day you will be in that bunch of 5 people who crash out, right? Yeah. So it's a bunch of factors, and you have to live with it. That's what I can say. You need to be mentally tough to judge it fairly, analyze yourself, and move on.
Absolutely. So then I want to ask you that, what do you see? Do you see that there is room for improvement in terms of governance as well, like in terms of controlling the races, in terms of marshalling them and stuff like that? I believe that there are cameras on the racetracks as well, but they're not as well covered. There may be some blind spots here and there. Drivers are bringing their own cameras into the cars and stuff like that. So where do you see points of improvement when it comes to governance of these races?
I think
Coffee Michael Massey type question.
No. I'm honest. I have no problem being honest.
Because you're on this side as well. You're organizing races as well. Right?
Yeah. So I have that different perspective. So now when I have a grievance and I go to an official, I have a different approach because I understand how it happens. But
no official, no, this is so not right.
Yeah, and people will hate you. I remember this one event that we were organizing a national championship, right? A national series, bunch of cities. Sponsors were Tata Motors and JK Tire, and I gave out a decision, right? And the guy went on Twitter and he was just like ranting, right? And I was young that time. I'm still young, but this is like 6 years back. I was a little more hot-headed. Right now, I'm like, "Arey, theek hai yaar, usko samjha nahi." That time I was like, I want to give it back, right? And Rayo was like, "Okay, please keep Saurav calm, because that's not how you respond." So yeah, that maturity has come as I've officiated. But I can tell you this: I've been racing for a while now. It's improved massively, and because of the cameras, because of the level of marshalling, the decisions handed out are better. They have improved. Can it be better? For sure. Do I want it to be better? Yes. So when we are officiating and when we have an internal team meeting before we start a race, or even while giving out decisions, we know one thing and we always keep this in mind. And this is a discussion we have internally all the time, is that it's a sport, it's a passion. People are extremely emotional about this, right? So every decision we give out, actually, like, it has an emotional impact on that person. It's not like, I don't have a proper example over here, but it's not like any other kind of decision making, where people are not emotionally charged. Here, people are emotionally charged. They're spending a lot of money, a lot of effort. They're passionate about this. So we need to go that extra mile as organizers to give out the most fair decision possible. Same way, when I'm a competitor, I expect the organizers to operate that way. You know, there are days when I feel कि अरे यार वो लोग ठीक से video देखा नहीं. I feel bad. You know, there are days where the organizer like, Saurav, you're an official, you're behaving this way. We don't know what to say to you. You know, and then they let me go saying that, you know, you're an official, you should be smarter, and they have an equation with me. They let me go, you know, and that's life. So there are days where I'm happy, when I'm unhappy with the decision. I just accept it and I move on.
Okay, so like now that you spoke about being, you know, being on both the driver and the official side of it, what about like the other kinds of pro racing in India? Do you like, you can tell our viewers, you can tell us as well. Like, we know that there's obviously the MRF Saloon Series, there is the 2000, there is the Volkswagen India Series that you compete in. There is, you also, I believe, do something for Jaguar.
That is non-motorsport.
That is non-motorsport. Okay, so then what about like the other? What about the other forms of pro racing?
So I kind of break down the whole motorsport ladder in the country. There is four-stroke racing. There are a lot of amateur races in four-stroke karts, right? Then there is four-stroke pro racing, which is a little more professional using four-stroke karts. Currently, we are the only ones who are organizing four-stroke pro racing. Then you move on from there to two-stroke, which are much faster than four-stroke. There's a national championship in the country. From two-stroke, then you can move on to cars. Bunch of directions. One is Formula 1300. Both MRF and JK Tire championships have it. Then there is Formula LGB, which is there in the JK Tire championship, which is Formula cars. Then there's Formula 1600, which is in the MRF championship. You know, those are actually Formula 4 level cars. And then there are saloon cars. So there is Volkswagen, which is a one-make championship. So all the cars are same, built by Volkswagen in their factory. And then there are a bunch of championships like Indian Junior Touring Car Championship, Indian Touring Car Championship, and Superstock, where you build your own car within the regulations and you race. So these are all the options that are available to a driver. And there is the MRF Saloon now, which is the old Etios Cup cars being used for the MRF Championship.
Where Jamie's actually, he raced a couple of rounds.
Yeah, Jamie is in that, couple of my students. And actually, a couple of the drivers used to race with me back in 2011-12, came back and raced in the Etios. So they were like, acha, like, you know, good racing at a decent budget, let's go race, you know. So yeah, these are all the options that you have in India.
Okay. And we believe that Formula 4 is coming to India.
So Formula Regional is coming to India, where there'll be Formula 4 and Formula 3. Okay. That is something a lot of the students that I'm training are really looking forward to and preparing for. You know, that ladder. They're in two-stroke doing really well. And hopefully some of them will be in the Formula Regional. That'll be exciting.
Oh, that will be very exciting for us as well, to see you guys there. It's going to be great. And,
and some of the kids that we have right now who are going abroad and racing also, they've done some, like student Raj finished 5th in a race in the Middle East. Another student, Akshat, he also finished 5th in a race, which is on a tough grade. And they were very close to the podium. So exciting stuff. Even in the four-stroke circle, some of the kids have been winning. And in fact, I have 4 female students who are not just going to break stereotypes. I'm telling you, they're going to crush stereotypes. They are fast, they're committed, they're fit. And one of them is 9-year-old and she's feisty. Like, you know, if you're trying to pass her, she'll put you in the tires, you know. So I'm super excited about like the students that we have and the way they are performing. It's going to be super exciting.
And Formula 4 and Formula 4, Formula Regional, Formula 3 in India will be a great infrastructure stepping stone for especially getting people, you know, not only Indian drivers on the grid and getting them compete with high level of competition, but it invites also a lot of other drivers and a lot of other competitors in Asia, Southeast Asia, that, you know, have to go to Abu Dhabi. Like a friend of mine who I got you, how I got connected with, he had spoken to me about how he had to go to, you know, UAE and Abu Dhabi and go there. Even Jayan had to go compete in New Zealand, had to go compete in Abu Dhabi. But now all of this is coming home, like it's coming to India.
You know, it's going to be great for the drivers and also the way they are doing it, hopefully it'll get the publicity that's required, and brands will look at it, and even parents will look at it and be like, okay, you know what, like maybe my kids can make a career in this. So it will change everybody's perspective, and that should be exciting. Plus there are super license points.
Correct. There's super license
everyone
points
is fighting for that.
Up for grabs, and as well Formula E, on a side note, is coming to Hyderabad next 2 years. They're going to be doing a street circuit, so that's pretty cool for even Mahindra Racing, because we've got an Indian team in Formula E.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think
also,
that
by the way,
brings us
recently IRESPORTS built actually restored a simulator for Mahindra, their Mahindra Racing Simulator. We restored it, and it is on display at their museum in Worli. Museum just got inaugurated yesterday by Mr. Anand Mahindra, so that simulator is over there.
That's pretty cool. In Worli, you said?
Yeah, in Worli. Their office, Mahindra Towers at Worli.
Oh, Mahindra
they have
Towers.
A museum over there, and I think the museum is open to public, so you can go and have a go at that.
I'm in Worli, so I'm definitely gonna go.
Yeah, you should go check. I have to check though if it's open to public or not, but I think they told us it will be open to public eventually.
That's pretty cool.
Great.
Yeah.
Before we conclude, there's just a little personal question that I wanted to ask you. If there is a moment in your racing career that you look back on, where you were like, okay, this is what I have been doing all this for, what would you pick?
So 2018, I think there were two South African drivers who had come in, the champion and the vice champion. And we were having an intense battle through practice, and I knew qualifying was going to be close. But that weekend I was like, kuch bhi ho jaye, pole is mine, right? So I arrived in Chennai on Thursday, and at the dinner table I told the whole Volkswagen team, they're like, are you ready for the South Africans? I'm like, pole. I just kept saying that throughout the weekend, that pole is mine, pole is mine. I got pole by 0.04, so I was quickest. And the second one was 0.04 away, the third one was 0.07 away. So we were within a 10th, and I just about made it. And I think that was one of the best laps I've ever driven. Tremendous pressure, and I was like, I'm gonna be on pole, no question about it. So yeah, that was fine.
That's pretty cool, man. Yeah. I think that brings us to the end of it. Arsh, do you have anything more to ask?
No,
you wanted entry into esports.
I'll message.
Like how you want to tell other people how to get into esports. I think you wanted to ask about that.
I mean, yeah, just a simple question on how to get into esports. Like I said, I actually, like you say, keep pole. So so the minute I got my wheel, all of my friends were like, oh, so you want to get into esports? I'm like, I'm telling you, Formula 1 ka first Indian driver on the grid in esports, main hoonga. Like, I will get on that grid. And I keep telling myself in the next 6-7 years, I will be the first Indian driver on the esports grid. You guys see it.
Brilliant. And yeah, I mean, we'll do whatever possible to help that happen. I mean, we need Indian representation in F1 esports grid, so yeah, that.
And not like Dhaval. I use 0 assists.
Hey man, yeah. I do it as a stress buster. Like मैं
अभी
पूरा दिन काम करके आता है और फिर ऐसा करता है. देख मैं Max Verstappen को overtake किया.
Same.
That makes me feel great.
Fun fact, actually, Saurav, I have a 13-year-old sister, and she loved the wheel when I got it, and I set it up on my TV and everything, and it's like Dhaval said, it's a stress buster. So I did, like, it used to be a stress buster, but now I'm so addicted to it that I have road rage even in my house. Like, I will start yelling at the driver and even in my house. So she started seeing me do this, and then she was like, even mujhe karne ka hai. So I used to set up the thing for her, obviously with assists. Now I've started slowly removing assists, and it's great to see her at such a young age. Yet, I mean, force feedback मैं obviously reduce करता हूँ. Obviously she's 13, तो उसका force feedback थोड़ा reduce करता हूँ. But I've removed the brake assist for her अभी. उसका racing line अभी भी चल रहा है. But it's great to see even youngsters to get into.
Yeah, let her do the IRESPORTS competition this time. Let's see how she does.
Yeah, dude. I'm honestly, every time she comes home,
obviously, but let her also give it a go. Yeah.
That Arsh, you remind me a great question. Saurav, you're a racing driver. I always wanted to ask this to a racing driver. तुम लोग को रास्ते पे road rage होता है कि नहीं?
No, I ride like an old man. The thing is,
Everybody says this. Like, you ask any race driver, I've seen interviews like, no, on the road I am a grandma, or on the road I am this. I have the number of grandmothers I have seen abusing. Okay.
but that's not a line that we use. Trust me, like once you race and you realize the risks, even on the road, it just keeps popping in your head. The risks and the possible accidents. So you're like, let me take it easy.
नहीं तेज चलाने का बात ही नहीं है. Like when other people are just
nothing.
like driving like idiots, very clearly. Does that not affect you? Or you're just like, नहीं, मैं तो मतलब मेरे को पता है मैं तेज चला सकता है. तुम लोग करो अपना.
I'm chilling. I'm not wasting my energy on this. I'm chilling. I know what the risks are. Let me just back off.
Fair enough.
Not on the track, though.
On the track. On the track when you go for a gap.
I will shove. In fact, all my students tell me that whenever they race with me, they're like, okay, wait, what you taught us in theory is not allowed, is what you do to us on track. I'm like, well, we are competing, so. Yeah.
But it's great to see you even have the competitive spirit, even though it's your students. I think that does not go away. So I think that's why even
that when you come to the same championship that I'm racing, I am going to go after you.
If you're racing in esports right now, if you're talking about esports, and now if I want to, obviously, like I told you, I'll get in touch with you about IRESPORTS later on. I'll talk to you about how I can compete in the PS4 championship with the wheel, obviously not keyboard, fair. I think if we come into the same esports championship right now, Saurav is being all nice and all on the stream. He's having fun with me. Like suddenly I'll put on my headphones. I'll just be like, okay, this is not the guy I spoke to.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I tell my students, I trash talk them that, okay, you're going to come race with me.
Oh God, your own students, Saurav?
Yeah. And they I mean, it's good lesson for them.
Trust no one.
Yeah, they trash talk back, so it's fun.
That's good. Yeah, I love the fire.
Seeing that in them, that they can trash talk their coach and go attack and push. So they need that. So
yeah.
That's good.
On that note, we've come to the end of a fantastic conversation with you, Saurav. And
it was fun.
It was fun for us. And thank you so much for giving us your time. It has been a pleasure. And hopefully we can do some more things in the future with you guys. Yeah, sure. I mean, there are a bunch of students who are, especially the ones who are doing internationally, I think they have a different perspective. There are some kids who will have a very unique perspective. So I think, a chat with them will be quite entertaining. For legal reasons, I cannot show enthusiasm towards any of those things that you just said.
You can't just, ये edit हो जाएगा, चलेगा. आजा बच्चे से बात करते हैं. On that note, once again, thank you so much. And on behalf of Couch Pundit Sports, this is Dhaval along with Arsh. And thank you guys. Bye-bye. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, guys.